This week on Africa Weekly, we focus on Tanzania, which is in mourning after last week's ferry disaster left more than 200 people dead. And we travel to Lagos, where long delays at Nigeria's busiest port is causing huge disruption for businesses in the country's commercial hub. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. 8 people, including 14 civilians, were killed in a rebel attack on Beni in the Democratic Republic of Congo's Restif East on Sunday. The rebels targeted areas near the center of the trading settlement of several 100,000 inhabitants. The Beni region is under siege from the Allied Defense Forces, a militia initially created by Muslim rebels to oppose Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, but which also operates in the DRC. The ADF has been in the east of the country since 1995 and are accused by the UN and Congolese authorities of committing a series of civilian massacres since 2014. The World Health Organization declared at least 45 people dead from cholera in Zimbabwe in the past 3 weeks, describing the strain as multi-drug resistant. About 500,000 doses were due to arrive in the country on Wednesday for Zimbabwe's first oral vaccine campaign to combat the disease, with 450,000 people targeted in the worst affected suburbs of the capital, Harare. Cholera outbreaks have occurred frequently in Zimbabwe's cities, where safe drinking water and sanitation facilities are scarce. Safe water is being trucked to residents, and police have banned the sale of street food, arresting vendors to try to prevent the epidemic from spreading, while public gatherings have been banned in the capital and people discouraged from shaking hands. Cameroonian presidential candidate Akere Mouna held a rally in Limbe on Thursday in Cameroon's volatile English-speaking southwest region, where violence has mounted ahead of next month's presidential vote. 6 civilians and 2 policemen were killed in the region on the night of Wednesday to Thursday. Cameroon's 2 minority English-speaking regions have been hit by almost daily unrest that have left at least 400 dead this year. Years of resentment at perceived discrimination at the hands of the country's French-speaking majority led to a declaration of independence by separatists that sparked a government crackdown. Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta was sworn in for a second term as the President of the Republic of Mali on Sunday, despite opposition protests against his re-election.
I would have liked these presidential results to have been accepted by all, so we can devote our energy and intelligence to overcoming the adversities facing our country. My wish has not been fulfilled. I deeply regret it. Not anyone can be a Democrat.
South Africa's largest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, launched its campaign on Saturday ahead of highly contested elections due next year. DA leader Mmusi Maimane told several thousands of supporters dressed in the party colour blue that the campaign will be our most ambitious one yet.
The South Africa I see today is certainly not like the vision of the South Africa I saw in 1994. It looks like a dream that we all shared. It doesn't look anywhere near it, and it looks like we are moving away from it. What was a dream is fast becoming a nightmare.
The DA, which has already reduced the ruling ANC's election majority during the 2016 local government vote, will seek to erode ANC support further at the general election due between May and August of next year. At his first press conference after returning from medical treatment in the US, Ugandan Member of Parliament Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, called upon President Yoweri Museveni to stop mistreating Ugandans that oppose him.
Just like there was a time when you are not in power, you must remember that there will be a time when you are not in power. So you should treat people the way you want to be treated. You should respect the rights of Ugandans the way you want to be treated. The nation has always been looking up to you. It is not too late, Mr. President, to do what is right. It is not too late to listen to our cries.
Bobi Wine has emerged as a leading critic of 74-year-old Museveni, commanding widespread support among Uganda's youthful urban population. He faces treason charges alongside more than 30 others after Museveni's motorcade was stoned by opposition supporters during a by-election in the northwestern town of Arua last month. Kyagulanyi claims he was beaten and tortured in custody after being arrested and sought medical care in the US.
A regular ferry trip between two islands on Africa's Lake Victoria that ended in tragedy. At least 224 people drowned when this boat capsized. This woman lost her husband in the accident.
We had 2 children together. It's my husband and we were married. It was Tuesday when he left home at around noon. He told me that he would stop by the court and from there he would go to pray at the mosque.
The ferry was designed to carry 100 people, but more than 250 were on board that day, far beyond its capacity. Overloaded and poorly maintained boats regularly sink on Africa's biggest lake.
The government will not tolerate this negligence. Strict measures will be taken against all those involved in the causes of this accident. We have already formed an independent special committee to investigate this incident.
Residents too are pointing the blame at ferry bosses.
The incident that took place could be blamed on poor management. Those in charge are not responsible, which could be a result of laziness. You find that this is a trend that has developed. Those supposed to inspect the ferries do not go around to inspect them, they sit in their offices.
Initial evidence indicates that the captain of the vessel was not on board, but had delegated his duties to an inexperienced subordinate. It remains unclear how many people are still missing. Few people in the region are able to swim, which contributed to the high death toll.
Miles of lorries stuck in never-ending traffic. Getting to Lagos's port is a dangerous daily nightmare. Forced to sleep and eat in their vehicles, it can take weeks before drivers can drop off their cargo.
Today making it 1 month and 2 weeks, 3 days that I've been in this hold up. Still yet I've not loaded. I've not dropped my empty, no money to feed, nothing. In fact, we are tired of this hold up. We are not sleeping because once we sleep, they will steal our battery, our spare tire, throw our guard. They can lose anything in the motor, all those boys, bad boys.
The port of Lagos is the main gateway for Nigeria's imports, generating 80% of its customs revenues. But poor management and a lack of maintenance are a source of concern for ship owners and businessmen, and now the roads are so bad, the dockers are finding it near impossible to continue working.
Man-work hour is reduced. It takes, where a journey would take normally like 30 minutes, you now end up taking like 6 hours. And that's a huge cost for the personnel and for our own members.
The government is regularly under fire for neglecting to improve the port's infrastructure, despite the launch of works to rebuild the roads. Meanwhile, the cost of extracting a container from the port is exploding, rising by 500% in just a few months.
If the cost of delivery of some of these items continues to increase, the companies, as far as possible, will have to transfer the cost to their consumers. And that means an increase in prices. So it also has an inflationary implication. It has effect on the welfare of the people.
Plans to decongest the traffic by opening a deep water port are on the horizon, but until then, lorry drivers in their thousands will have to sit tight in Africa's biggest city's traffic jams.
After being banned for several months in Kenya because it deals with the love between two women, the Kenyan film Rafiki, which means friend in Swahili, was broadcast for the first time in Nairobi on the back of a court decision allowing the screening. Earlier this year, Rafiki became the first Kenyan film ever selected for showing at France's prestigious Cannes Film Festival. The director went to court after the Kenya Film Classification Board banned Rafiki for promoting lesbianism, a decision that rendered it ineligible for the Oscars. A judge ruled on Friday that the film can be shown to willing adults only for a period of 7 days, the minimum requirement for a film to qualify for Oscar consideration. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.